Why? How could this happen? For days after my beloved daughter left for her honeymoon, I was suddenly informed that she had died in an accident. Just when she had found a good person and was about to start a happy life. During the funeral, her husband was also crying, saying he couldn't regret it enough. However, I felt something odd about one of his statements. Something was off. Could it be murder? With an uneasy feeling in my chest, I began investigating the incident that took my daughter's life, not knowing that the truth would plunge me into despair. I had raised my daughter Taylor alone since losing my husband to an accident when I was young. She was my pride and joy, honest, straightforward, and devoted to her parents. Since I had been a single parent and caused her some hardships, I was truly delighted when she introduced me to a man. Her marriage partner, Harry, seemed like a serious person. His parents had already passed away, and he had no siblings, claiming to be completely alone in the world. At first, I had the impression that he was a fine young man with a refreshing appearance and seemingly flawless character. What? You're not having a wedding ceremony? My daughter looked very displeased when she told me this. Harry said he doesn't like flashy or conspicuous things, and it's a waste of money to just register the marriage. But didn't you say you wanted to wear a wedding dress? My daughter is a girl after all, so she must have wanted to wear that once-in-a-lifetime attire. However, at this point, a disagreement with Harry had emerged. He says he wants to splurge on the honeymoon with the money we save. He really wants to go on an overseas trip. I see. Indeed, if they wanted to have a decent-sized wedding ceremony and enjoy an overseas trip, it would be quite expensive. However, I thought it was inappropriate not to listen to any of my daughter's wishes. They could have a domestic trip, or if they insisted on going abroad, they could look for cheaper options. Surely Harry could compromise somewhere. I felt uneasy, thinking that Taylor was being taken lightly, but I didn't want their relationship to sour at this point. So, I decided to invite them both to my home. Hey, is it okay if I try to persuade Harry? After getting my daughter's permission, I arranged to speak directly with Harry. Harry, I want you to listen to this as my selfish desire to see my daughter in her wedding attire. Couldn't you at least have a wedding ceremony just for the photos? But I really want to make the honeymoon special, you know. For him, who has no parents, it might not sit well to have me taking Taylor's side as a parent figure. However, it's said that dissatisfaction with marriage and childbirth can last a lifetime. Besides, it shouldn't be wrong to bring in a little parental desire to fulfill my daughter's wish. I spoke as carefully and amicably as possible, trying not to offend him. We'll include Taylor's favorite activity, diving, in the plan. But it's quite popular, so it's quite expensive. Is that so? That sounds fun. In that case, I'll pay for all the wedding photo costs. Consider it a wedding gift. How's that? Really? That's great. Thank you so much. I'm happy that I'll get to see Taylor looking beautiful too. The moment I said I'd cover the costs, his expression brightened, and I couldn't help but give a wry smile. Is he unexpectedly stingy? Although I felt a bit uneasy about the future, at least this way, we could have a photo wedding. My daughter got to wear about 3 dresses she liked. Once we started, Harry seemed to get into it too, not complaining about changing outfits or moving to different locations. In the end, it seemed to become a good memory for both of them, so I was glad I had persuaded them. The day after taking lots of great photos and having a small dinner party, my daughter and her husband left for their honeymoon in Australia. I'll bring back lots of souvenirs. That was the last time I heard my daughter's voice. What? What did you say? I suddenly received a call from someone claiming to be the local police, telling me that my daughter had died. This happened just 4 days after Taylor and Harry had left. They said my daughter had drowned while diving. Apparently, the day before they were to go into the sea, my daughter had sprained her ankle while sightseeing in another location. Despite this, she insisted on going into the water because she had been looking forward to it so much. The person on the phone seemed to have changed from the police to Harry at some point, but honestly, I don't remember much about that moment. When I came to my senses, only Harry had returned, my daughter's remains had been brought to the funeral home, and I was holding Taylor's memorial portrait. And I was receiving condolences from the funeral attendees. It was then that I felt like I could finally face what was happening in front of me. Perhaps because I was like this, or maybe because he was feeling the same way, Harry hardly spoke to me until the funeral. Thank you all for attending my wife's funeral today. Harry was addressing the microphone, but his voice was flat, almost mechanical. However, as he began to describe the circumstances of my daughter's death, Harry's voice started to tremble. Finally, he began to sob, his words becoming fragmented. No one would expect things to turn out like this when they were about to start a happy life together. Of course he'd react that way. Huh? Wait a minute. Harry's speech was a typical eulogy if you just let it wash over you. But I noticed something odd about it. During breaks in the funeral, I had the chance to talk with my daughter's friends who had attended, and I found something else puzzling there too. Her friends were all saying things like, "I didn't know Taylor had gotten married," and "This is the first time I've seen Taylor's husband." Surprisingly, Taylor and Harry hadn't told anyone about their marriage registration, and they didn't have a single friend in common. Were they planning to announce it after they got the photos? But is it normal for no one to know Harry? Although there were quite a few attendees at the funeral, it struck me as odd that none of Harry's acquaintances were among them, but I thought the only way to resolve these nagging doubts was to talk to Harry directly. However, the conversation took a dramatic turn shortly after this. Due to the testimony of a certain person attending this funeral. It was 2 weeks later that I contacted Harry. By this time, he must have been busy dealing with Taylor's belongings and insurance paperwork. I still have some of Taylor's insurance documents at my house. I'm sorry to trouble you, but could you come pick them up? When I said this, Harry came right over. Hello, Mother. Where are the documents? As Harry said this, a large fist connected with his face. Harry's body seemed to float in the air for a moment before being slammed to the floor with the same momentum. Harry could only look confused as he held his struck face. No wonder, my niece and Harry's brother Anthony had been waiting in the guest room. I've finally found you, you stupid little brother. How dare you deceive my aunt and cousin? So this is what it was. I was right to trust my instinct at that time. What? What's going on? Why is my brother here? During the funeral, I had sensed something odd about Harry's eulogy. Now, the source of that oddity became clear. That day, Harry had tearfully told the attendees, "My wife attempted to climb Ayers Rock the day before diving. He said she had lost her footing and sprained her ankle, which is why she couldn't swim well and drowned." But that story doesn't make sense. Why are you bringing this up now? More importantly, why is my brother here? You lied to me. My daughter would never climb Ayers Rock. I glared at Harry, who still couldn't get up from the floor. My daughter hates heights. Ever since she slipped and fell off a cliff during a mountain climb long ago, suffering a major injury. Taylor was a girl who hesitated even to step out onto the balcony of our second-floor home. She was so terrified of falling from high places. There's no way such a Taylor would willingly climb an unstable rock mountain. Taylor listened to my selfish request. I begged her, saying that climbing would soon be prohibited, and I really wanted to go before that happened. She agreed, but because of that, Harry's voice trailed off. His face seemed to suggest he felt responsible, but I wasn't about to be fooled by such an act. Even if that were true, a normal husband would have stopped her from diving if she had sprained her ankle. Besides, Taylor had diving as a hobby, so she would have understood the dangers of diving when in poor condition. She wasn't foolish enough to take such a risk just because she was looking forward to it. Besides, I don't trust you anymore. You, whose background I don't even know. No, that's... As Harry mumbled, still sprawled on the floor, Anthony grabbed him by the neck and forced him into a formal sitting position. Probably due to the earlier punch to the face, Harry was shaking and crying. Anthony was a tall, strong man. He's apparently a martial arts instructor, so it's no wonder Harry would want to cry if such a person angrily punched him. But I felt no sympathy for Harry. You still haven't learned your lesson and you're still doing this kind of thing. Since when did you start going by the name Harry? Your name is Daniel, isn't it? Oh, so that's your real name. Who exactly are you? Why did you use a false name to deceive me and my daughter? Explain it yourself. Daniel, formerly known as Harry, averted his eyes from me and refused to answer. Everything about his identity had been a lie. His occupation, his claim of having no relatives, it was all made up. In reality, his parents are still alive, and he even has 2 older brothers. If you won't say it, shall I? I already know everything you've been doing. You've been repeating marriage fraud all over the country, haven't you? I heard you were even in prison once. According to Anthony, after Daniel had finished his prison term and was released, he had been living quietly at home for a while under the watchful eye of his parents and siblings. However, one day when the family members took their eyes off him for a moment, he suddenly disappeared. You really never know. To think such a terrible person was living so close by without me noticing anything. But thanks to my niece, we were able to find out. It was my niece's testimony that she thought she saw this person in a photo her senior showed her, that led to the discovery of his true identity. My niece had gone to a university away from her hometown and found a job in that area after graduation. Your brother was a senior member of the club I was in. I thought I'd seen you somewhere before, and it was in a family photo that my senior had shown me once. When Harry heard this, he was speechless with his eyes wide open. He must never have imagined that my relative and his relative would be connected in such a place. I thought it might be a coincidence because the names were completely different, but I never imagined he'd be such a dangerous person. I truly don't know how to apologize enough. Anthony bowed his head to us, seemingly apologetic from the bottom of his heart. This guy has been cheating people out of money and putting them down since he was a kid. I thought he might have reflected a bit after going to prison, but to think he would do such a thing to someone's daughter. Wait. Hayler's death was an accident. I didn't do anything. Harry suddenly interjected, seemingly panicked. What? You're speaking as if my daughter was killed by someone. When I pointed this out, he made an expression that seemed to say, "Oh no." Perhaps the shock of being hit made it easier for him to slip up. Of course, I had it properly investigated. My niece and I had spoken with the local police and tour guides. There, we uncovered the truth about what happened to my daughter. My daughter had not injured her foot at all, and the cause of her drowning was an equipment malfunction that led to an air leak in the tank. Apparently, after the instructor's inspection, the valve had loosened for some reason, causing air to leak out and resulting in oxygen deprivation. The facility's cameras clearly captured the moment you touched my daughter's tank just before she dived. Cameras I never heard anything about. And you know, with special reagents, fingerprints can be collected even after being submerged in seawater. When I emphasized that we had secured the evidence, Harry started crying again. I had trouble with a woman at work and lost trust in women. He suddenly started talking about himself. Did he think this would change how I see him? But I didn't intend to harm Taylor. I just thought about getting some compensation or sickness benefits if she got a little injured. So you were trying to skim off some money. You really are scum from birth. Anthony sighed and added, and stop that disgusting fake crying. Besides, you're the one who caused the trouble, aren't you? You took a high-handed attitude towards female employees, forced them to quit, and that became a problem, leading to you being kicked out. I had already heard from Anthony that Harry had caused problems at his company in the past and been fired. He had been living off money he had scammed from people. You've always been like that. A liar, sneaky, never living an honest life. Shut up with your nagging. What's with you people? You've been ganging up on me this whole time. Perhaps recognizing that he was surrounded by enemies, Harry stopped crying and started to lose his temper. I'm different from my dad and brothers who are such boring people. I'm a chosen one. Working hard and getting all sweaty doesn't suit me. His absurd claims made me, Anthony, and my niece all take a step back. What's wrong with wanting to make money easily? Is that all you have to say? Not wanting to hear any more of his outrageous logic, I glared at him angrily. I'm still her husband. No divorce, no end to the marital relationship. The insurance money and survivor's pension are all mine. It's your daughter's fault for being deceived." With an evil grin, he truly looked like a villain. "Insurance money, huh? I've already taken care of all that." Taylor didn't change any of her life insurance details from before the marriage. "Also, since you don't have any children, you're not eligible for the survivor's pension." When I calmly informed him of this, he was at a loss for words again. "Oh, didn't I mention? I work for an insurance company." Taylor came to consult with me about reviewing her insurance before going on the trip. After going through the process of changing the insurance beneficiary and reviewing the coverage, I told them I would take care of the rest and sent the two off on their trip. Then, just as I was about to process everything, I received a call from the local police, and it was still untouched. "Were you in such a hurry for money? But if you were after the insurance money, shouldn't you have checked who the beneficiary was before taking action?" I didn't want to know what was going through the mind of the person who took my daughter's life, but even from an outsider's perspective, it seemed like an incredibly shallow and sloppy approach. "The insurance money has been properly deposited into my account." Damn it! It's your fault for not processing it quickly. Give me the money. It's mine. As Harry lunged at me saying this, Anthony restrained him. However, at this moment, my heart reached its limit. My body moved on its own, and I grabbed a bag containing my bank book, credit cards, and other items, then forcefully slammed it into Harry's face. Ouch! Of course it hurts when another impact is added to an already beaten face. But my daughter's pain and suffering were nothing like this. "If you want it so badly, I'll give it to you." I said this with surprising calmness. I couldn't confirm it myself, but I think my expression must have been like a no mask. "I don't need the insurance money or anything else. So give it back." I slowly approached Harry, speaking each word deliberately. "Give me back my daughter." I could hear Harry quietly swallowing hard. "I've recorded all your confessions, and I've called the police. You're going back behind bars." "You, damn it. This pisses me off. Remember this. I won't let this slide. When I get out, I'll do it again. I'll send you to the same place as your daughter." Anthony firmly held on to Harry, who was screaming and yelling. "That's scary. But you should remember this too. It seems like this is the first time you've taken someone's life, but this time it'll be national news. Your actions will become known to all your past victims and their families." Outside the house, I could already see the flashing lights of police cars. "I will never forget you. I'll always remember. And all the people you've deceived, driven to despair, and made suffer are all glaring at you." Huh? What's that supposed to mean? For me, it's enough if you receive legal punishment. But even if that's enough for me, what about others? Do you have any idea how many people hold grudges against you? Even after saying this much, it didn't seem to sink in for him. Not everyone seeks revenge through proper methods, you know. Whatever punishment anyone gives you, you'd better accept it without complaint. My niece showed the arriving police officers into the house. Your name, face, crimes, and punishment will all be made public. I wonder who will be waiting for you on the day of your release, and what they'll have prepared. I could see the blood drain from Harry's face as he looked at me. It seems he finally understood what I was saying. Perhaps he was counting his sins. Anthony held on to Harry's arm until the very end. And Harry showed no signs of trying to escape, allowing himself to be dragged away by the police. Maybe he had lost the will to resist due to fear of what would happen to him from now on. Thus, Harry, or rather Daniel, was arrested, and his face and real name were made public in national news, bringing his misdeeds to light. With one crime piled upon another, it seems he won't be able to come out from behind bars for at least 10 years. Even if he could get out, what awaits him is a massive amount of damage claims and a lonely life. It seems his habit of trying to manipulate people with tears and lies hasn't improved even in prison, and he's spending his days without being trusted by anyone. To this day, my daughter's friends still visit my house regularly. Through these connections, I've made new friends too, and thanks to their presence, I'm inspired to live strongly for my daughter's sake as well.